So what does the prefrontal cortex do? It's really the part of your brain that makes you human. 30% of the human brain. And it's involved with the functions we think of as human. Things like forethought, judgment, impulse control, organization, planning, insight, empathy. Your ability to make a goal. See what you want to do. Establish a plan to reach that goal. And then consistently over time, despite the obstacles, march toward making that happen. You need a good prefrontal cortex to do that. When there are problems in this part of the brain, and they can be from many reasons, from a head injury, from inheriting attention deficit disorder, because ADD is a problem in the prefrontal cortex, from toxic exposure or anoxia, lack of oxygen. When there are problems in this part of the brain, you have what we call executive dysfunction, short attention span, distractibility, restlessness, impulse control, disorganization, lateness, problems with empathy and insight. So what we see in attention deficit disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, just two terms for the same thing. In ADD, we actually see relatively normal brain at rest with dramatic drop-off with concentration. It's the most significant finding, statistically significant finding in the ADD brain, is that when people with ADD try to concentrate, they drop out their frontal lobes. So what does that mean? It means the harder they try, the worse it gets. Now, we can have a moral approach to them and say, you could do this if you wanted to. You could do it if you were interested. You could do it if you were a good person. You could do that. But that's really not understanding the science behind it, because the science says that the harder they try, the less access they have to their own frontal lobes, their own supervisor. Think of the prefrontal cortex as Jiminy Cricket. You know, that still small voice that helps you decide between right and wrong. Remember the movie Pinocchio? Jiminy Cricket was Pinocchio's what? Conscience, right? It's that still small voice in your head that says this is a good thing to do it. Or this is a bad thing to do, don't do it. And people who have ADD and other frontal lobe problems, that voice is very soft for them. So a half an hour of homework may take them 4 hours to do, with their mother yelling and screaming at them to get it done, and they just can't bring their attention to focus on it. Or their room might be chronically a disaster because they don't have the energy or the motivation to keep it organized. Or as an adult, they say, you know, I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to do that thing. And they don't do it until their boss threatens to fire them. Or they don't do it until their wife, you know, screams at them. Many people with ADD have what I call a conflict-driven nature. What does that mean? Is they seek turmoil. They seek excitement. Why? Because they have low activity in their frontal lobes, and they do whatever they can to turn them back on. And little children, what they do is they pick out the most irritable parent in their family, and they work on them. They are masters at getting their mothers to yell at them. But as adults, it's the same thing. As adults, they pick on the dog, they pick on their spouse, they pick on their child, they pick on the people at work, and it's like conflict and anxiety and turmoil follow them. And they will deny that they do it, but they are conflict-driven. I had one patient once. I love this story. He's 6'8", and his wife is 5'2", and they come into my office. And she sits down and she starts and she says, Dr. Amen, he's going to kill me. And I said, what do you mean? He scares me. Yeah? No, he scares me. He hides behind corners in the house. And as I walk down the hallway, he jumps in front of me, and now I have a heart condition because of him. So I put him on a lot of medicine that day. I was going to save this woman's life. And right after I saw him, it was lunchtime, and I did my paperwork, and I walked into the parking lot, and there he was, in the parking lot. He had a pickup truck, and in the back was a golden retriever. And he was teasing the dog. And I looked at him, I said, why are you upsetting the dog? He said, the dog loves this. Well, at the time I had a golden retriever, and I knew the dog didn't like this. So in the parking lot, I raised his medication. I'm like going to get to help the dog and help the wife. It's a real problem, though, because an ADD adult will take a nice marriage and ruin it because of the conflict-driven nature. I mean, because they tend to marry people a little bit anxious. A little bit of anxiety goes way up when you're married to somebody that has ADD because you can't predict what's going to happen. Plus, there's always this turmoil. Now, what do you do if you put them on medicine? If it's the right medicine for them. The image on the left is an ADD 15-year-old girl struggling in school. Sweet, lovely, beautiful, wonderful girl, but never reaching her potential and giving a massive effort. In fact, she would stay up usually till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning to get her homework done and still get B's or C's. Well, she had overall decreased activity in her brain, especially in the front. We put her on Adderall, which is one of the newer stimulants, overall dramatically better activity. And she went to straight A's in school. So withholding medicine from her would be like withholding medicine from a diabetic, or like withholding glasses from somebody who can't see. When you understand ADD through the lens of brain science, you realize withholding treatment is neglect. Really, it's abuse. Because you're withholding. But if you never look, and when you get diagnosed with ADD, nobody looks. They just ask you, do you have 6 of these 9 symptoms? And if you have them, they go, oh, you have ADD, here, take this. When those 9 symptoms could be from many different brain areas.